The twin sons of Ashfield's Hope were sitting behind the jagged mountains when Kirichin saw the sky catch fire. She had been hauling scrap metal across the salvage yard, her arms aching from another 12-hour shift. At 16, she was small for her age, but years of hard work had made her strong. The other workers had already gone home to the colony dome, but Kira always stayed late. The foreman paid her extra, and she needed every credit she could get. The streak of light cut across the orange sky like a burning sword. It was not the gentle fall of a meteor. This was something massive, something fighting against gravity with everything it had. Kira watched it disappear beyond the scorched wastes, the dead zone where nothing grew and nobody went. A few seconds later, the ground shook beneath her feet. She dropped the metal beam she was carrying. By the time she reached the colony dome, people were already talking. The defense grid had picked up the crash. Some said it was a cargo ship. Others whispered about pirates or worse. The colonial administrator, a nervous man named Peters, got on the public address system and told everyone to stay calm. It was probably just debris from an old satellite, he said. Nothing to worry about. But Kira had seen the way it fell. That was no debris. Something had been piloting that craft, trying desperately to land instead of simply falling. She could not stop thinking about it. That night, lying on her bunk in the workers' barracks, she stared at the ceiling and wondered, who was out there? Were they hurt? Dead? Waiting for help that would never come? She knew what the colony would do. They would send a scout team in a few days, maybe a week. They would be careful, slow, and by the time they arrived, whoever had crashed would be long gone. That was how things worked on frontier worlds. Nobody took risks. Nobody helped strangers. Kira had been a stranger once. After her mother died 8 years ago, she had been alone. The colony had given her a bunk and a job, but nothing more. No kindness, no family, no warmth. She had survived, but she remembered what it felt like to need help and receive none. Before dawn, she packed a bag. Water purifiers, emergency medical foam, some food packs she had been saving. She also took a portable scanner and a plasma cutter from the salvage yard. If she was going into the waste, she needed tools. The walk took 3 hours. The wastes were called that for a reason. The ground was cracked and dead, covered in a fine gray dust that got into everything. The heat was brutal even in the early morning. Kira wrapped cloth around her face and kept walking, following the coordinates she had marked from watching the crash. She found in a canyon, hidden from above by overhanging rock. It was not a ship, not in any way Kira understood ships. It was organic, like a massive creature that had been part machine and part living thing. The hull was made of something that looked like scales, shimmering with colors that changed in the light. Parts of it were clearly damaged, torn open by weapons fire. This thing had not crashed by accident. It had been shot down. And then she saw him. The dragon lay in the shadow of his broken ship. That was the only word that fit. He looked like the dragons from old Earth stories, from the books Kira had read as a child. 40 feet long, covered in scales that caught the morning light like metal and oil mixed together. Wings were folded against his sides, torn and burned. One massive eye was open, watching her. Kira froze. Her hand went to the plasma cutter on her belt. The dragon did not move. Could not move, she realized. He was dying. She should run. She should go back to the colony and report this. First contact with an alien species was a coalition matter way above her level. There were protocols, procedures, things that were supposed to happen. But that eye, ancient and intelligent and so very tired, it looked at her the way Kira had looked at the workers who passed her by when she was a hungry child on the streets. Please, help me. I am alone. She stepped forward instead of back. The dragon's eye followed her movement. His chest rose and fell slowly, each breath seeming to cost him everything. Up close, she could see the energy burns across his scales, the deep wounds that leaked something that was not quite blood. Kira unslung her pack and pulled out the medical foam. Her hand was shaking, but she did not stop. She had made her choice. She would not leave him to die alone in this wasteland. For 3 days, Kira told no one. She went to work at the salvage yard like always. She hauled metal, sorted components, and kept her head down. But every night, as soon as her shift ended, she filled her pack with supplies and walked into the wastes. Water was the most important thing. The dragon needed so much water that Kira had to make 2 trips some nights. She learned quickly that medical foam meant for humans did not work well on his scales. Instead, she used cooling gel packs and wrapped his worst wounds in thermal blankets from emergency kits. It was not perfect, but it seemed to help. Each night, his breathing came a little easier. On the 4th day, he opened both eyes and looked at her. Kira had been cleaning one of his wounds, trying to be gentle. When she looked up and saw both massive eyes watching her, she nearly dropped her supplies. The eyes were golden, like melted metal, and they were completely focused on her. "Hello," she whispered, feeling foolish. What was she supposed to say to a dragon? He made a sound. It was low, so deep that Kira felt in her chest rather than heard it with her ears. The sound rolled through the canyon like distant thunder. She stumbled backward, afraid she had hurt him, but then the scales along his neck began to glow. Soft blue light rippled across his body in patterns, like waves on water. The patterns changed, shifted, formed shapes that almost looked like words. He was trying to communicate. Kira sat down hard on the dusty ground. "You are intelligent," she said. "You understand me." The blue light pulsed once. "Yes," she laughed, a sound that was half wonder and half fear. "My name is Kira. Kira-chun." More patterns flowed across his scales. They formed shapes that her mind struggled to understand. Then he made sounds again, mixing the deep rumbles with clicks and something that sounded almost like singing. After several attempts, he produced something that sounded like Varthex. "Varthex," Kira repeated. "Is that your name?" The blue light pulsed again. Over the next week, they learned to understand each other better. Varthex could not speak human languages easily. His throat was not made for it, but he was trying. The scale patterns helped. Kira began to recognize what different colors and movements meant. Blue for yes, red for danger, green for questions. She learned that he came from far away, from a species called the Draconids. They had been traveling through space when humans were still learning to make fire. They were old, ancient, and they remembered everything. That was their purpose, Varthex showed her. They were living libraries, carrying the history of the galaxy in their minds. "Why were you shot down?" Kira asked one night. Red patterns flooded across his scales. "Danger. Enemy." Then he struggled to form words, his voice like gravel and thunder mixed together. "Hunted. They hunt me." "Who?" But Varthex closed his eyes, exhausted from the effort of speaking. Kira knew she was running out of time. Someone would notice her nightly trips eventually. The supplies she was taking from the salvage yard were adding up, and Varthex needed more help than she could give him with stolen medical kits. On the 10th night, she arrived to find him trying to stand. His legs shook, but he managed to lift himself halfway before collapsing again. The crash had done more damage than she realized. Parts of his bio-ship were connected to him, feeding him nutrients and helping him heal. But those systems were failing. "I need to repair your ship," Kira said. "I work with machines. Maybe I can fix it." Varthex looked at her for a long moment. Then his scales glowed green. A question. Then he forced out words in his broken, thunderous voice. "You! Help! Why?" Kira sat down beside his massive head. "When I was 8 years old, my mother died. Pirates attacked our transport ship. I was alone after that. The colony took me in, but nobody really cared. I was just another orphan, another mouth to feed." She touched one of his scales gently. "I know what it feels like to be alone and hurt and have nobody come." Varthex made a sound that was almost a sigh. His scales rippled with colors Kira had not seen before. Soft gold mixed with deep blue. Gratitude and something else. Something that looked almost like sadness. Then he said something that made Kira's heart stop. "Kira-chun," he rumbled, his voice suddenly clearer than it had been before. "I knew your mother. I knew Liana." Kira stared at him. "What?" "That's impossible. How could you?" In the distance, lights appeared on the horizon. Security drones. sweeping the waste with searchlights. Someone had reported suspicious activity. Varthex's scales flashed bright red. Danger. They were out of time. Kira grabbed Varthex's massive leg and pulled. We have to move. Now. The dragon was still too weak to fly, but he could walk if he leaned on the canyon walls. Together they stumbled deeper into the waste, away from the searching lights. Kira found a cave hidden behind fallen rocks, barely large enough for Varthex to squeeze inside. They waited in the darkness while drones hummed overhead. When the lights finally moved away, Kira turned to face him. Her voice shook with anger and confusion. Tell me how you knew my mother. Tell me right now. Varthex's scales glowed softly, giving them light in the cave. He was quiet for a long time, as if choosing his words carefully. When he finally spoke, his voice was clearer than before, though still rough like stone grinding on stone. 20 years ago, I met Lianachin on a station called Haven's Gate. She was not just an engineer. She was a spy, working for human intelligence. Kira shook her head. No, my mother worked on colony ships. She helped build life support systems. That's what she did. That was her cover, Varthex said. Her real job was to find the truth, to learn why human colonies kept getting attacked, why first contact with other species always ended in violence. The dragon's eyes glowed brighter. Liana discovered something terrible. Some humans, powerful humans in your government, were staging the attacks themselves. They made it look like aliens were the enemy. They did this to keep humans afraid, to keep the military strong, to keep themselves in power. Kira felt cold despite the warm cave. That's insane. Why would they do that? Fear is profitable, Varthex said simply. War is profitable. Peace with aliens would mean less money for weapons, less power for the military leaders. These men could not allow that. He shifted his weight, and Kira saw pain flash across his features. Liana found proof. She discovered which officials were involved, which attacks were fake. She was going to expose everything. But she needed help. She needed someone from outside humanity, someone who could not be threatened or bribed. She found me. My people, the Draconids, we keep records of everything we see. We are the long memory of the galaxy. When Liana showed me her evidence, I added it to our records. Together, we stopped one attack. We saved thousands of lives. But the men behind the conspiracy learned what she had done. Kira's hands clenched into fists. The pirate attack. The one that killed her. That was them, wasn't it? Yes, Varthex said quietly. They sent assassins. Made it look like pirates. You were 8 years old. You survived because Liana hid you before they came. She saved you, Kira. Her last act was protecting you. Tears ran down Kira's face, but she did not wipe them away. Why didn't you help her? If you were working together, why didn't you save her? I tried, Varthex said, and his voice carried the weight of old grief. I was on the other side of the galaxy. By the time I received her distress call, I was too late. I have been searching for you ever since. 8 years, looking for Liana's daughter. She gave me something before she died, something important. Varthex lifted one clawed hand. His scales along his chest began to shift, and a small compartment opened in his flesh. It was part machine, part living tissue, built into his body. From inside, he removed a small crystal, no bigger than Kira's thumb. It glowed with a soft blue light. This is a data crystal, he said. It contains all the evidence your mother gathered. Names, dates, proof of every crime. She entrusted it to me because she knew they would never stop hunting her. She wanted you to have it when you were old enough to understand, old enough to finish what she started. Kira took the crystal with shaking hands. It was warm, pulsing gently like a heartbeat. The conspiracy is bigger now, Varthex continued, more powerful. They learned I was looking for you. That is why they shot me down. They have been killing everyone connected to Liana's investigation. I am one of the last who knows the truth. What am I supposed to do with this? Kira whispered. What your mother could not, Varthex said. Expose them. Show the galaxy what these men have done. But they will come for you, Kira, just like they came for Liana, just like they came for me. Outside the cave, more lights appeared in the distance. Not drones this time. Ships, landing near the colony. Varthex's scales flashed red. They are here. The hunters have found us. Kira looked at the crystal in her hand, then at the dragon who had known her mother. She thought about running, about hiding, about giving up. Then she thought about all the people who had died because of lies, including her mother. Then we fight, she said. The men arrive at the colony in the morning, wearing clean uniforms and carrying expensive weapons. They called themselves coalition inspectors. They said they were there to investigate alien infiltration. Kira watched them from the salvage yard, her heart pounding. She recognized the way they moved, the way they watched everything. These were not inspectors. These were killers. The leader was a tall man with gray hair and cold eyes. He gathered the colonists in the main square and spoke in a friendly voice. We have reason to believe an alien creature has crashed in the wastes. If anyone has seen anything unusual, please tell us. We are here to protect you. Nobody spoke. The colonists looked at each other nervously. Then the leader's voice changed, became harder. We will be interviewing everyone individually. Anyone who has information and does not share will be charged with treason against humanity. Kira felt someone grab her arm. It was Torres, her supervisor from the salvage yard. The older woman pulled her behind a stack of metal containers. It's you, isn't it? Torres whispered. You're the one going into the waste every night. Kira's mouth went dry. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie to me, girl. I've been doing inventory. Medical supplies missing. Water purifier's gone. I'm not stupid. Torres' scarred face was fierce, but her eyes were not angry. That thing they're looking for, is it really alien? Kira hesitated, then nodded. And you've been helping it? Another nod. Torres was quiet for a moment. Then she said something that shocked Kira. I served under your mother 20 years ago, before I retired and came here. Liana Chin was the best officer I ever knew. When she disappeared, I knew something was wrong. I've been waiting a long time for someone to finish what she started. You knew her? Kira whispered. I knew she was trying to expose corruption in the coalition. I knew she died for it. Torres gripped Kira's shoulders. These men, they're not inspectors. They're cleaners. They're here to erase evidence. That alien you've been helping, they're going to kill it. And they're going to kill you too if they find out. By afternoon, the men had started their interrogations. They were not gentle. Kira heard screaming from the administration building. Someone was not giving them the answers they wanted. We need to get you and that creature off this planet, Torres said. Can it fly? His ship is damaged, Kira said. I've been trying to repair it, but I need more parts. More time. Then we get you the parts. And we buy you time. Torres stood up. Wait here. She disappeared into the salvage yard and returned 10 minutes later with 5 other workers. They were all older, all veterans like Torres. They carried tools and equipment. We're going to help you fix that ship, Torres said. And then we're going to make sure you get off this rock alive. They worked through the night. Kira led them to the cave where Varthex was hiding. The dragon watched the humans approach with wary golden eyes, but Kira touched the scales gently. They're friends, she told him. They knew my mother. Torres looked up at Varthex with wonder and fear mixed together. So it's true. Dragons are real. Draconids, Varthex corrected, his voice rumbling through the cave. We are draconids. The workers got to their tools. They stripped parts from the bioship and replaced them with human technology. It should not have worked. Organic systems and mechanical systems were completely different. But Kira had learned both in the salvage yards, and Varthex guided them, showing them how his ship functioned. By dawn, the ship's heart was beating again. Weak but alive. That was when the explosion started. The mercenaries had found the cave. They came with heavy weapons and combat drones. Torres grabbed a plasma rifle from one of the workers. Get that ship started, she ordered. Get Kira and the dragon out of here. What about you? Kira shouted over the sound of weapons fire. Torres smiled, and it was fierce and proud. I'm going to do what I should have done 20 years ago. I'm going to fight for something that matters. She looked at Kira one more time. Your mother would be so proud of you. Now go. The workers formed a line at the cave entrance. They fired at the advancing mercenaries, buying precious seconds. Varthex pulled himself into the ship, and Kira climbed up beside him. The bio ship shuddered to life, its heart pounding like a massive drum. Through the cave opening, Kira saw Torres standing tall, firing her weapon until the mercenaries overwhelmed her position. Then Torres reached for something on her belt. No! Kira screamed. The mining explosive went off like a small sun. The entire canyon entrance collapsed in fire and rock. Torres and the mercenaries disappeared in the blast. But the explosion also cleared the way above them. Fly! Kira whispered through her tears. Please, Varthex. Fly. The dragon's wings spread wide, patched with metal and hope. The bio ship rose into the morning sky, leaving Ashfield Hope behind as more coalition ships arrived. They flew toward the stars, carrying the truth with them. The way station hung in the darkness between stars, invisible to human sensors. It was built into an asteroid, carved from ancient rock by claws and fire. Kira had never imagined anything so beautiful. Crystal formations glowed from within the stone, creating light that felt alive. 3 elder draconids waited for them inside. They were even larger than Varthex, their scales marked with patterns that seemed to shift and move like living history. When they looked at Kira, she felt like they could see through her, past her, into every moment of her life. Welcome, daughter of Liana, the eldest one said. Her voice was like wind through deep caves. We have waited long for you to come. Kira climbed down from Varthex's ship on shaking legs. You knew about me? Your mother came here once, the elder said. Before you were born. She was the first human to find us. She asked us to help her stop a war before it began. We agreed because we saw in her something rare, the courage to seek truth even when truth is dangerous. The elder draconid moved closer, and Kira saw that her scales were marked with symbols in languages that had died before humans learned to speak. Varthex has told us what you carry. The data crystal. It is time to complete the memory. They led Kira deep into the way station, to a chamber that took her breath away. The walls were covered in light, millions of points of information flowing like rivers. This was the long memory, the archive of everything the draconids had witnessed in their thousands of years traveling the galaxy. Place the crystal there, the elder said, pointing to a pedestal in the center of the room. Kira's hands trembled as she set down the crystal her mother had died protecting. The moment it touched the pedestal, light exploded through the chamber. Images filled the air around her. Documents, recordings, conversations, names and faces of coalition officials, dates of attacks that were never really alien attacks at all, proof of every lie, every death, every crime committed to keep humanity afraid and isolated. It is complete, the elder said. The truth is whole now, but truth alone is not enough. Someone must speak it. Kira looked at the overwhelming amount of evidence floating around her. How? If I send this to the coalition, they'll just bury it again. The people in power will destroy it. Then do not send it to the powerful, Varthex said, his voice stronger now that he was home among his people. Send it to everyone, all at once, so fast and so wide that no one can stop it. The elder draconid's eyes glowed. This station has a communications array built when your species was young. It can reach every human colony, every station, every ship at once. But if you do this, Kira-chun, you cannot go back. You'll be called traitor by some, hero by others. Your life will never be simple again. Kira thought about Torres, standing in that canyon, choosing to fight. She thought about her mother, hiding evidence and protecting her daughter with her last breath. She thought about all the people who had died because of lies. Teach me how to use the array, she said. It took 6 hours to prepare the broadcast. The elder draconid showed her how to encode the information, so it could not be altered or deleted. Kira added her own message, speaking directly to the camera with Varthex standing beside her. My name is Kira-chun, she said. My mother was Liana-chun, and she was murdered for trying to tell you the truth. For 20 years, people in our own government have been lying to us. They staged attacks on our colonies. They made us afraid of aliens, so we would give them power. I have proof. All of it. And I'm sharing it with everyone right now." She pressed a button. The signal went out like lightning across the galaxy. Every human settlement received it at once. Colony worlds, military stations, corporate ships, independent traders. Everyone saw the evidence. Everyone heard Kira's words. The response was chaos. Some officials tried to deny it, but the proof was too complete, too detailed. Within days, arrests began. Coalition officers resigned or were removed. Frontier colonies demanded independence. The news networks could talk about nothing else. And then, 3 weeks after the broadcast, something else happened. Ships arrived at the way station. Not human ships. These were vessels from species that humanity had thought were enemies. The Draconids were not the only ones who had been watching humans and waiting. A communication came through. We heard the transmission. "We have been waiting for humans to seek peace instead of war. We would like to talk." The elder Draconid looked at Kira. "They are asking for you, the girl who told the truth. Will you speak for your people?" Kira was 16 years old, an orphan from a salvage yard. She had no training, no authority, no right to represent humanity. But she thought about what Torres had said. "Your mother would be proud." "Yes," Kira said. "I'll talk to them." The first multi-species council met 3 months later. Kira sat in a chair that felt too big for her, surrounded by beings from across the galaxy. Some looked like Varthex. Others were so strange she had no words to describe them. Varthex stood beside her, his scales glowing softly with encouragement. Human ambassadors were there too, new ones chosen by the colonies instead of the old government. They looked at Kira with respect and uncertainty. "We're here to talk about peace," Kira began, her voice steadier than she felt. "Real peace, not the kind built on lies and fear. My mother believed humans could be better than that. I want to prove she was right. It was not perfect. Arguments happened. Misunderstandings occurred. Some humans still wanted isolation. Some aliens still distrusted humanity. But they were talking, not fighting. Talking. On Ashfield Hope, a memorial was built for Torres and the workers who died helping Kira escape. The colony became famous as a place where one girl chose truth over safety. And in the space station between stars, Kirichin learned to be a bridge between worlds. She carried her mother's dream forward, with a dragon at her side and a long memory to guide her. The galaxy was changing, slowly and perfectly, but truly, and it had started with an orphan girl who refused to let someone die alone.